Ah, the old three-in-a-row game. There must be some fundamental mathematical principle at work here. Vectors and line segments really only need 2 points to define them in space. But that third point describes something more. A relationship, alignment, distance, proportion, and potential. I want to introduce you to a little game that puts a new twist on the old three-in-a-row objective. The brothers George and Joseph Lines made toys, wooden toys mostly, beginning back in 1850. George was the craftsman, and Joseph was the businessman. Their manufacturing company was called G&J Lines Limited, and they were located in London. So Joseph had 4 sons, and 3 of those sons got together to form a company called Lines Brothers Limited in 1919. They were William, Walter, and Arthur. So now 3 lines make up a triangle, and that's how they came up with the brand name Triang. The 4th brother, Richard, he came on board some years later to join the company as well. Now this video will not be a comprehensive history of the company. That deserves an entire documentary all by itself. But let me share just a few highlights from this company's growth and career. The brothers made all sorts of toys, metal and wood and cardstock. These included their now famous cars and trucks, and they also were at one point in time were the leader in making prams, not just for dolls but for actual human babies. Here's an ad from 1929 that describes some of their larger products, and they were very successful. They needed more space, so they bought a 47-acre plot in Merton and built a new factory there, new warehouse, and moved the entire operations there. Now, Richard Lines, that 4th brother, was apparently responsible for them getting into the model railroad business. That later became one of the main product lines that they were known for and still are today. They also created a line of model aircraft, and they got into what they called nursery furniture and many, many other child-related industries. At the start of World War II, they stopped making toys, of course, so that they could support the war effort, and they started making weapons, specifically the Sten Mark III submachine gun. They also made gliders, an infrared night vision apparatus, and their artisans created a panoramic model of the Normandy beach for planning purposes before D-Day. And then after the war, they dusted off the old manufacturing equipment and started to get back into the toy industry. Lines Brothers Limited were at their peak in 1947 when they began to claim that they were the world's largest toy manufacturer. They had become a multinational company by then, and in the 1950s they started to acquire competing brands to add to their own products. These brand names included Hornby, Dinky Toys, Meccano, and Rovex model trains. And in the mid-1960s they emulated the Schwinn Stingray bicycles with their own models of banana seat and sissy bar bike, their most popular model being the Dragster. A kid can't get much cooler than this. Now, aside from their imports and licensed games, they also created games of their own. Here's a quick slideshow. Well, of course, one of their products in 1971 was the game called Checklines. Here's a picture of their design. The interesting feature that sets this apart from other three-in-a-row games is that the winning configuration has to be 2 lines of 3, and 1 peg of the 2 lines has to be common to both. Let's have a look at the rules as played on our NewVenture Games version of Checklines. The game board is quite typical of such games, a pattern of holes connected by lines. Each player gets 5 pegs, in this case red and black. The objective is to create 2 rows of 3 pegs, and 1 peg must be common to both of the rows. Here are some examples of winning configurations. Players decide who goes first by whatever means they like. Then alternate turns in the usual I go, you go fashion. First, there's a placement phase. Players will place a peg in any empty hole. It's possible to win the game during this phase, but not very likely. After all the pegs have been placed, then the game shifts to the movement phase. Pegs are moved 1 space at a time, again following the lines. There's no jumping, there's no capturing in this game. So it's all about blocking the opponent's potential while setting yourself up for the win. The rules do admit that stalemates are possible, and they suggest that a series of games should be played, like a best 3 of 5 or some such goal, alternating the start player after each game. The original game was rated for players ages 6 and up, and I think that 6-year-olds could grasp the rules here and so on, but I think they would be a little bit frustrated playing against a superior player, and no kid wants to lose all the time. So I think if 2 players are of about the same level, then you'll have a heck of a lot more fun with this game. That idea is something to keep in mind anytime you're teaching a youngling a new game that is based on strategy and foresight. It takes them a while to see those patterns and be able to strategize. There's also a note in the rules for advanced players, and the idea is that the center hole on the board is off limits for the first turn, for the first 2 turns, and then that makes the setup in the placement phase a little bit more difficult, and you have to rely a lot more on your movement strategy for the second half of the game. And now, regarding the fate of the Triang brand, Checklines was first published in 1970. That's just about the time that the company was beginning to suffer from financial challenges. Many toy makers and publishers were going through transition during that period. Mergers and acquisitions were temporis proprius, and the Lines brothers began to fall into some financial difficulties. So they split up the company and began to sell off some of these brands. By the end of the decade, Triang was no more. Well, actually, a little beyond that. The brand hung around for a bit because of its reputation. One of their brands was called Minic, and they were the ones that made the miniature vehicles. Both Triang and Minic brand names were bought by Charles Shave in Hong Kong in 2003. For the nostalgic, or for collectors, of course, you'd be interested in the original Triang version of Checklines. That can be found on the auction sites and flea markets and antique stores, I suppose. But today, as this video is being recorded, the NewVenture version of Checklines is part of a Kickstarter campaign. Now, if you've come on board here watching this video after the campaign is over, rest assured that we will be getting this into our catalog at some point in the near future. Meanwhile, if the campaign's still running, then you can get in on a really great deal for Checklines. Just check the links in the notes below, and you'll find out whether that campaign is still available for you to get on board. But anyhow, I hope you get a chance to play it, and be sure to play every day. If you'd like to learn more about Triang, visit this website. There's a lot of information there. Basically, it's collectors that have amassed a lot of information, but their focus is primarily on the model railroading side of it. There's a lot of other information on the web to be had about Triang and the Lines brothers. And I did find an Android app for Checklines. I'll put that link in the notes too here. I didn't play it because I don't Android, but that's a possibility. You might be able to play it online. I suppose someday I'll probably have to have an Android. It would probably end up being a paranoid android.